3 years ago, I quit my steady, reliable government job to try and make it as a professional marathon runner, aiming for a spot at the Olympics with absolutely no guarantees that it would actually work out or any idea how I would get there. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how I ended up signed as a pro athlete with On pretty much by accident. I'm going to talk about what actually happened with my New Balance sponsorship, how I make my money now, and also what I would have done differently knowing what I know now. And I'll also explain why the heck I'm in Belfast. And if you're new around here, I'm Phily. I'm a 2:25 marathon runner, I'm also a running coach, and I'm a YouTuber with 145,000 subscribers. That'll be 145,001 if you just click that button for me. Obviously I'm biased, but I think you'll enjoy it. In the last year of being a professional runner, I have learned so much, and I guess hindsight is always a wonderful thing. Later on, I'll touch on wouldn't I have done anything differently, and I guess how my perspective has kind of changed on my own story over the years. But to start this all off, kind of have to run it back. We'll go back as far as 2021, 2022. I was working in my first big girl job as a civil servant, which basically meant in some capacity, whatever I was doing, I was working for the government. And it's funny actually filming this outside City Hall in Belfast. This really reminds me of Parliament Square in London, which is where I would commute for my days in the office when I was working at the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. I was working in policy in that department in my last few months as a civil servant, and I was basically working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Sometimes it varied a little bit. Like I'm in the way. Am I in your way? No. Okay. And I was squeezing in my runs, my training sessions, the occasional gym session when I had time, before or after work. If I was commuting into the city that day, I might have to get up at 5:30 to go and get an hour's run done before walking to the train station and getting the train into London. Sometimes I wouldn't get home until gone 7, 8 o'clock, and on those days, it was kind of a 50-50 chance as to whether I even got out the door once I got home because I was so tired. To anyone that is fitting in 7 days of training, sometimes double days, around a full-time job with commuting, you know it's no joke. For me, because I really didn't enjoy what I was doing, I felt like an imposter amongst my colleagues who seemed to be really good at what they were doing and seemed to really enjoy it on the surface. I spent every day in that job questioning, is this it? Is this my life now? Living for the weekend and then dreading the start of the next week the minute 5 p.m. on Sunday rolls around. And I used to get really down about it because you've got to pay your mortgage, you've got to earn some money to live. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and there wasn't this clear path of a job or a career that really stood out to me, apart from running. But I couldn't just earn money running. I wasn't good enough. Whilst I'd been to America on a scholarship for running and run for Great Britain numerous times, I wasn't good enough to just walk up to a shoe sponsor and say, hey, do you want to pay me for this? To be handed a professional contract out of college or at any age, you need to be walking onto world championships teams, Olympic teams, which means you're easily running those qualifying standards. And when you get to those championships, you're also a contender. You're not someone that gets knocked out in round 1 of the heats. You're not someone that's just making up the numbers, because you have to be incredible to make it to the Olympics, to make it to the world championships. We have people on those teams who are teachers, are doctors. They are not making enough money as an athlete to be able to support themselves. And so as someone who wasn't running Olympic or world qualifying times, I was even further away from that being remotely a possibility. And I've spoken about this before on this channel. I know it's not just athletics. I know it's not just track and field. There are lots of sports out there where very few people get to say, I'm an elite athlete and I am just a professional athlete and I earn enough money from my sport to do my sport. So I think it's important to talk about, because a lot of people outside of athletics or outside of other sports might perhaps be watching the Olympics and think that every member of the rugby team or everyone making up the track and field team are just athletes. That's not the reality. And whilst an alarming proportion of my time sat at my desk was spent daydreaming about doing something else, something more fulfilling, worrying that this would be my life forever, and feeling feeling quite sad, I think some of it was time well spent, because through those thoughts and then also through those conversations with my partner, Daniel, we sort of hatched a plan. I'd been working as a civil servant since September 2020, and in January 2021, we decided to start this YouTube channel. And I'd say maybe 6 months into making these videos, those conversations turned to, well, could this be the answer? So we kept making videos, kept gaining more subscribers, the ad revenue was going up, we were getting sponsors, and I started my online coaching business. And I'd say by September, October that year, we kind of realized that this could replace my job. I think there's a big difference though between knowing that you could do something and then actually going and doing that thing. And I don't know how quickly I'd have made that leap if it wasn't for an opportunity that came my way. My coach at the time had taken a position coaching a semi-professional team up in Manchester called Team New Balance Manchester. With her as my coach, I had a little bit of an in, and the door opened for me to be able to join this team. I needed to move up to Manchester in order to do that, and they would support me in providing shoes for me to train in, kit for me to run in. We were given physio support, massage support, access to a gym, easy training facilities, and obviously coaching and running with the team. And that was really exciting. It was also pretty scary though. This felt like a huge risk. Daniel had to be all in on it as well. We were moving our lives 4 hours up the country. We had no idea we were right that this plan would come off. Would we struggle to make ends meet for a few months? Would this way of life work out? It felt like such a big opportunity, and I think we were prepared to accept the risks, go there with this mindset of, if we don't try, then we'll never know. And I didn't want to regret not trying, so we took the leap. And before I tell you how it went and what happened next, I need to go and simultaneously take many, many leaps in a row. All right, yeah, that's a very loose segue. I need to go for my run. And I'll say what I've said many times, the best way to explore a new city is on a run. So let me prove it to you. The only problem, running up really, really big hill. Gotta get back down. I just remembered I promised I'd tell you why the heck I'm in Belfast. It's 20 past 6.
What is that?
And I'm on my way home at the airport. I was here to see my good friend, Kira McGeehan.
Goal number 2 for Ireland here in the 1500 metres. Brilliant stuff from her.
And also to just do a bit of touristing, a bit of filming, a bit of seeing the city. And like I said, best way to see a city, on a run. I hope I proved that yesterday. Although I will say, next time someone recommends me to walk from Belfast Castle up to Cave Hill, I'm gonna walk instead of run. I might have fallen over a couple of times on the way down. So we sold our house in Reading, moved up to Manchester, and to start off with, I dropped my hours from full-time down to part-time, working for the civil service. That meant that I could train in the morning when the team trains, go to the sessions, go to the gym, and then come back and work from sort of lunchtime into the evening. Very quickly, I was able to compare between my routine and the routine of my teammates that didn't have to sit at a desk doing a job they didn't want to do for those hours, and then fit in 2 other jobs, creating content, coaching athletes online, I guess 3 other jobs, and running as well. And so I think I lasted about 2 months working part-time until I made the next leap and fully handed my notice in. Then it was about building my coaching business and building out the content to make sure that it was matching my salary, which I think was pretty much a clean transition. Because I'd started working part-time, I was able to take on more athletes, we were able to invest a little bit more in the content, we were buying better kit, better cameras, making better quality videos. And I think it's easy to look back on that time as this really positive thing where I quit the job that I didn't enjoy doing to do these things that I really loved, which it was. But I don't want to overlook the fact that it was also really, really hard. I have always struggled to structure my time. Being my own boss is really difficult for me to get my head around still today. Grinding away, coaching, creating content, and running was and still is, I guess, a real balancing act. And we often didn't get it right, which led to many meltdowns, feeling burnt out a lot, second guessing ourselves. And I say we in all of this because this is when me and Daniel really started to be the team that we are today. But where I had this structure of behaving like a pro, going on training camps, training in the morning and then coming home and doing the rest of my work from lunchtime, I didn't have the paycheck to marry up with that, and we also couldn't afford to bring Daniel with me on those training camps. So all the content I was doing was solo, which compared to what we do today, it's just so much harder. But the key thing was I was able to prioritize the things that are important as an athlete. Getting enough sleep, doing my gym work, getting good quality sessions in. They're not being squeezed in at 6 a.m. before work or 8 p.m. after work. I was starting to build my life around running, which I think is something I needed to do to even be able to consider getting to where I am today. My hair did. You probably can't notice that much of a difference. I am committing to these routes to try and grow some healthy hair, so a tone was all I'm allowed. And a fresh chop. Where was I? I'm living and training in Manchester and starting this new way of life. Slowly but surely, I think the impact of having more time to train and more time to dedicate towards recovery, because the other work that I'm doing around running is on my own terms, we started to see results. About 6 months after we moved, I had a big breakthrough in the marathon when I came third at the Copenhagen Marathon. And that was just a great day. Taking 5 minutes off my marathon time to run 2:29 and coming third, which I didn't realize was happening until I literally was 600 meters from the finish. That was a good day. Fast forward another 7 or 8 months, I ran another 2:29 in Houston. Okay, not the cumulative minutes that I'd like to take off in improving, but still a couple of seconds. Another show of consistency, running another sub 2:30 time. Shortly after Houston, I left the New Balance team that I had joined and was the reason that we moved up here. It felt like the right time to have a coaching change, and on top of that, New Balance weren't able to offer me the salary to become a professional athlete on top of the kit and shoe support I was getting from them. So I decided to leave the team and go it alone. Thankfully, through being a content creator, I was able to get kit and shoe support anyway. We just decided to back ourselves, back me as an athlete, back what we do on the content side of things, and trust that somewhere down the line, that would bring a really great opportunity to fruition. And only 3 or 4 months later, conversations were starting. On came to us and said, "We love what you're doing. We love that you're both an athlete and a content creator sharing that journey, and we think there's a lot to tap into there." That is where I got the very unique opportunity to work with a brand as an athlete and a creator. So remember earlier on when I said to get a professional contract, you need to be walking on to those teams. I wasn't quite at that level yet, but I was showing great potential. And what I was also doing, obviously with the help of my business partner and now fiance Daniel, was showing the value that we add by creating reach and engagement with an online audience on YouTube and on Instagram. And the cool thing is, because of what we've built on social media, I was in the position where I didn't need a professional athlete contract. I didn't need that money to support myself as an athlete or to support myself financially, because brand deals and ad revenue and my coaching business had already replaced that need. And the real difference that that created and still creates today is it lifts the pressure off of my performances from an external source. Obviously, as athletes, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to compete and perform at the highest level anyway. I think most athletes are their own biggest critic and the pressure comes from within. But to also have that from a brand, if you're on a professional athlete contract that has reduction clauses if you don't hit fast enough times or good enough results, or threatens to be completely taken away if you're not performing, I didn't have any of that. But what I did have now was a pro contract without that pressure, because I don't need it. I've got this very diverse range of incomes, if you like, that means I have other things to lean on. And if prize money isn't a factor, or a professional athlete contract isn't a factor, or I get injured, I'm okay. fast forward to now. This pretty unique way of working as an athlete and a creator has led me to a 2:25 marathon, spending a lot of time in Flagstaff, which we love doing. It's my favorite place for a training camp. We can take our work with us, and it feels like we're building something special. It's not just about making enough money to live, pay our mortgage, and for me to do what I need to do as an athlete and to be at my best. It feels like we're building something a lot more special than that. This word gets thrown around a lot, but this is a community. The sheer number of people that shouted "love the grind" whilst I was running the London Marathon showed us that. The fact that we have a Patreon community. I'll meet people when I'm out training who watch these videos and have connected with other people through them. That feels really special. And working on something that feels bigger than yourself or bigger than what we're doing in our day-to-day feels really, really cool. The idea that any of these videos are remotely motivating, inspiring, educational, getting to work with really cool brands that we love, collaborating with other creators. We've done merch runs in the past and that's been received really well. We have plans in the future to do more of that, and that's super exciting. We are taking our time though, so let me know in the comments what you want to see, but just be patient with us. Like I've been talking about recently, we're also trying to not do too much at once. Would I do anything differently? I think hindsight is a wonderful thing, but we made the best decisions that we could at the time. There was no way for me to go pro and get the funding for that without either having another job or finding something that brings that money in through other forms and through something that we really enjoy. Doing that through social media has been so enjoyable. I don't think I'd have it any other way. That's why I think this backwards route worked better for me, because to go pro, you have to be really, really good. To get really, really good, you have to spend as much time and energy on training, recovery, all the little things. How do you do all of that when you're committing 40 plus hours a week to a job that doesn't allow you to do those things? It's kind of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Great if you're so talented that you can do that. A lot of us have a tiny bit of talent and have to work really, really hard, and that takes time. And I think freeing up that time and allowing myself to build my routine so that I could get better and then access those opportunities was the only way I was going to be able to do it. I am 100% not saying this is for everyone. I would love to see more people do it this way because I think it's an untapped opportunity, but not everyone's into making videos, and that's fine. What I am saying though is if there's no obvious route to your dream job, your dream scenario, your dream way of living, look at the alternative ways to get there and consider carving your own path, because it might seem ridiculous and impossible. I genuinely didn't think these videos would ever be anything more than a little bit of fun. And Daniel loves that he was right.
Say that again?
That he was right.
Say that again?
That he was right. And I was wrong when he said this could be our job one day. And so my message is take the back roads. Try something a little bit unconventional. Worst case scenario doesn't come off. If you're following your gut and having fun along the way, or loving the grind as we like to say, what have you got to lose? And I would love to hear some unconventional journeys that you guys have made, because I think it's really interesting, and I think it will also inspire other people watching this video and reading the comments to take their own leaps and bet on themselves and to love the grind.